You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast, powered by RAGBRAI. This is the award-winning podcast where we are all about the culture of cycling, just for the fun of it. Your hosts are Murph from the Murphology podcast and AP from Parrot Talk. With tales from all over the nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now here is Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
Hey, that's me.
Well, hey there, AP.
Hey, Murph. How are you this week?
I'm doing actually pretty okay. I've got a big doctor's appointment coming up later this week that hopefully will make my voice a little bit different.
Yeah. You want to tell everybody about it, or?
Yeah, I have been suffering from, I guess it's called chronic sinusitis for actually almost this entire year. And so finally I'm getting surgery done. Actually, at the time of when people are listening to this for the first time, it probably is already over with, and I am smiling and happy and breathing freely.
Yeah, well, I hope everything goes super well for you and that it works just as well as intended, or maybe even better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like
been a while since you've been able to breathe correctly.
I know. Yeah. So it's a pretty minor surgery, meaning that I get to go home the same day. And I guess, for a layman, I'm not a doctor, so I'll just say it's kind of like getting roto-rootered. So that might be a little too graphic to think about, but I'm curious to see, because I can really hear in my voice when, I sound really nasal, and I'll be curious to know if my voice changes.
Yeah. I mean, we got to have you sounding good on this podcast.
And it can't change too much because, this is our money makers, right? Our voice.
I know. They have to be able to recognize you.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm also a little nervous because I think with all this oxygen going into your body, you're going to be able to whip me on the bike rides now.
Ooh, yeah. And we are
only
a couple weeks from when you and I get to ride RAGBRAI for the first time.
That's right.
RAGBRAI LII for the first time.
That's right. Yeah. So it's getting serious. I'm glad you're able to take care of this before the pre-ride so that you're able to function healthily.
Yes, you are correct. So today's episode is really, really, really cool. I guess all of our episodes are really, really cool, but this one means a lot to me, and I think it's going to mean a lot to everybody who registered for RAGBRAI so far.
Yeah. Our topic today, if you didn't read the title, is Honor Flight and the Honor Flight Network. They're the community fund beneficiary of RAGBRAI 52. And what that means is that as riders register for RAGBRAI, they're able to donate to a cause. And this is the cause this year. The Honor Flight is the cause. Mm-hmm. So it's really special.
And if you don't know what the Honor Flight is, it's a network. It's a national nonprofit. I did not know that they had this many hubs, but I found out that they have 130 hubs dedicated to honoring American veterans. And here's what they do. They literally take a full-size jet and they fill it full of veterans and their guardians and take them to all the memorials in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. And over time, since 2005, they've taken over 30,000 veterans to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And it's at no cost to the veterans at all.
Yeah, I think it was 2015 that I got to go with my father. He got to go as a veteran. I was his guardian. And I can't even tell you, you can't put into words the emotional impact it has on these veterans, but also all of us, to go see all these memorials. And it's a whirlwind of a day because you do it all in one day.
Yeah. But it's just so cool to see that these veterans being appreciated and getting to just see some of the memorials that were made for them in Washington, D.C., no matter which of the areas they served in, be it, Vietnam, World War II, whatever else. It's so cool that they get to do this at no cost to them. It's nice for them to get some kind of extra benefit for, serving in the war and, maybe nothing can really ever make up for what they've sacrificed, but it's nice to show this effort and show some appreciation for them and show them some love.
Yeah.
When the plane returns to their home base, a lot of times they have a literal welcome ceremony where they have cheering squads and balloons and music and just real fanfare for these veterans that they maybe didn't receive when they came home from fighting in the war.
Yep. And as we said, this is a national nonprofit. So if you are a veteran or you know someone who's a veteran who maybe has not experienced what the Honor Flight's all about, you can just go to honorflight.org and hopefully find something in your area. We have multiple Honor Flight networks in Iowa. And on the podcast today, we're going to talk to Lynette, who is the president of the Eastern Iowa Honor Flight. It's a really good interview. She talks to us about, what the veterans go through when they experience this day. Also on this episode, you'll get to hear from one of the veterans.
Cool.
I just love what this nonprofit does for veterans.
Yeah, it's just so super important. It's super moving. It's just a really cool organization, and it's just a real special thing for us to be able to support them this year on RAGBRAI. Starting last weekend, we kicked off a little series that we're doing where we sort of highlight each of the different Honor Flight hubs within Iowa that RAGBRAI donations will be supporting directly. So if you want to know a little bit more about, what these organizations are, even above and beyond this interview, are these two interviews that you're about to hear, you can go over to our Facebook page or our Instagram page, and you should be able to see a couple posts, and we'll be doing them more throughout the spring. Or you can go to ragbrai.com/gives, where we talk about the Community Fund Project and the Honor Flight as well.
All right. Well, let's get to our interviews today. I would like to introduce the Eastern Iowa Honor Flight President, Lynette Voss. Hi, Lynette.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Very good. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about the Honor Flight. And, as listeners know, the Honor Flight was chosen as the beneficiary of RAGBRAI LII Community Fund. So this is exciting for probably both of us.
Yes, it is very exciting. And we are so thankful that you're giving us the opportunity to give your listeners a little information about the Honor Flight.
Yeah. And if listeners go to ragbrai.com and actually look up Community Fund, you can actually see live how much money is being raised for the Honor Flight. And it's not something that riders have to do, but when they register, it's an extra button that they can push and say, you know what, I want to donate today.
And we certainly do appreciate those donations. The Honor Flight is a 501c3 organization, and we are funded completely upon donations.
Oh, interesting. Well, let's get into it. Will you tell us a little bit about what exactly is Eastern Iowa Honor Flight?
Yeah, so Eastern Iowa Honor Flight is a nonprofit organization, and we take veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials that were built in their honor. So far, Eastern Iowa Honor Flight, we have completed 54 successful missions.
Wow.
We have taken just over 4,700 veterans to Washington, D.C., and we were initially established in 2008. So we've been doing it for a little while.
And at the time of this recording, you just completed one of your missions, right?
Correct. We did just complete mission 54. We have mission 55 just 2 weeks from yesterday, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do take 4 trips a year. We try to get in 4 missions a year. So we typically take about 350 to 400 veterans a year. Mm-hmm. We do have a 2-year wait list. Wow. So we always encourage veterans to apply now. Even if you don't know, you can always, when we do call you, you can say, I've decided not to.
Sure.
But get on the list.
Sure. So do you know, I don't know if you've been with the organization since it started, but do you know why or how it first came to be? It's obvious that we want veterans to be able to go to Washington, D.C. and see all the monuments that are there for them. But do you know how the connection came to be between Iowa and getting there?
Yeah. So, Honor Flight is a national organization that currently has about 120, 125 hubs across the United States.
Oh, okay.
And the National Honor Flight took their first flight a year or two before we were established. And it was created by two men who flew their own private planes and funded their own flight so that they could take some World War II veterans to the World War II memorial that had recently been dedicated prior to this. And they just felt it was so important to recognize those veterans. And from there, it has just continued to grow to the 123 plus hubs across the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who is eligible to take these trips?
Eligibility right now is for any veteran who served stateside or overseas during combat or peacetime that served in the World War II, Korean era, Vietnam era, anybody who served from 1975 or earlier. Mm-hmm. Right now, Honor Flight has not yet opened up to those more recent veterans from like 1976 forward, but those veterans are still encouraged to apply. Mm-hmm. They certainly, although we're not inviting them to fly now, when we do begin inviting those veterans, they'll be at the top of our list. Sure. So right now, any veteran who served, whether reserves, now some hubs have different requirements. So you do need to check with the hub that you would be applying for to confirm. But most all hubs take veterans and that served from 1975 or before.
Okay. And is there a cost associated for veterans?
No, there is no cost at all to the veterans. The veterans have already paid their price with their service and the sacrifice that they've provided to our country. So, no, the veterans, this trip is completely cost-free as a thank you from the community, the donors, and Honor Flight, thanking them for their service.
I was extremely lucky to be a guardian on an honor flight when my dad went as a veteran from the Vietnam era. And I wanted to have you describe a typical day, but I wanted to give you, my perception real quick, where it is a whirlwind of a day because you go to Washington, D.C., see all these monuments and come back in the same day. And it's on a huge jet. It's not like a 10-passenger airplane. I mean, this is a full flight that is dedicated just to these veterans. So it was an overwhelming day in a good way for me the entire day. And I can't imagine being an actual veteran who's going to see some of these sites. So do you want to give listeners kind of an idea of what a typical day is like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do charter a private airplane out of the Cedar Rapids Airport. We leave early in the morning. We try to get wheels up no later than 7 a.m. Mm-hmm. And we return that day. We usually land around 9:30 p.m. But once we arrive in Washington, D.C., we do go to multiple memorials, including the World War II Memorial, the Korean Memorial, Lincoln Monument, the Vietnam Memorial. We always get to go to Arlington. That's such a surreal experience to watch the guards and changing of the guards. We will visit the Air Force Memorial, Iwo Jima, and the Marine Memorial. And then depending on time, there's been a couple times we've been able to stop at the Pentagon to see the 9/11 Memorial. But yes, we see all of that in one day and return home the same day. We provide meals for the day, snacks, water. It is completely, free of charge for the veterans.
You have to explain how the heck you can get to all of those memorials and corral all of these veterans and their guardians in and return back to Iowa in the same day. I mean, I know you've done this multiple times, but how are you that efficient to be able to get all that done?
Yeah, well, we've been fortunate to have, those 54 flights under our belt. So that was certainly helped us learn a few things along the way. But we actually could not complete a successful mission without the assistance of the guardians that do accompany the veterans. They help us throughout the day just to make sure that the veteran is safe, that the veteran and themselves are returning back to the charter buses on time as scheduled, so that we can stay on track best as possible to be able to get to these different sites.
And I thought it was pretty cool, and maybe this is just a standard practice when you have that large of a group, but you had an escort all day long. So you weren't really fighting traffic. It was just here's where we go next. Here's where we go next. This is the time frame.
Yes. And it's actually so fun to watch. We do get police escort between monuments. There are certain monuments where the park police are able to assist us, and some they're not able to. Some of that changed after COVID. But yes, the police officers and the park police will stop traffic so that the charter buses, we have 4 charter buses, all with wheelchair accessible access. But those charter buses get us through the day, and the park police help us to efficiently move through the city because the roads in DC are very busy.
Right. And I didn't list this as a question, so I'll delete it if you don't have anything off of the top of your head. But I'm curious, do you have any really good stories about veterans who have talked to you after going on this?
Oh my goodness. I have so many wonderful stories. I've had some veterans, one that I was very fortunate to happen to sit next to by accident that day. But he happened to be a POW in Vietnam. His plane had gone down. And he shared a little bit of that experience with me. And it was the first time that this veteran had told anyone about his experience. And we do hear this from several veterans where it's the first time that they were able to let down a little bit of their guard or release some of that anger or resentment that they've carried with them for such a long time. We've had family members come back and tell us, my dad had always been a little bit of an ornery person, not always nice, and said that after the honor flight, he did a 360. He changed his demeanor, talked a little bit more about his service, and just came back a friendlier person. So it does definitely make an impact on the veterans.
Yeah, I would say my dad was not ornery, but he definitely came back a different person. It was definitely life-changing for him.
Yeah. Yes.
Tell us about, this was, there were so many highlights of that day, so I guess I can't pinpoint one, but the end, the welcome home event where the community comes out, will you kind of give us an idea of what that's all about?
Yeah. So, it is a long day. We are gone 10 hours. The veterans come home, they're tired. But when we arrive home, back to the Cedar Rapids Airport, we have what we call a welcome home for the veterans. It is usually around 800 to 1,000 people at the Eastern Iowa Airport. We have a band that plays music. Sometimes they'll bring along dancers to help entertain a little bit. But people make signs. We have a lot of Boy Scout troops, legions that come and when the veterans first come out of the security area into the entry of the airport there, they are lined on both sides with flags, and they go through a path that is created through the airport, and it goes from where you come out of security all the way through the Eastern Iowa Airport to baggage claim, where they walk through and people just will clap, tell them thank you for their service. And for so many veterans, this is the first time that they have ever received that thank you.
Wow.
It's usually, it's very emotional. And no matter how many times I do it, I still get goosebumps because just the pride and respect that you're able to, just for being an American, our freedom, and then these veterans who have given that to us, that we're able to give them that thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think and they will say, for as tired as they are, so many of them say that that was the best part of the day.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's so awesome. If people are thinking about, either an honor flight in their community or the Eastern Iowa honor flight, maybe they have a parent who's a veteran, or maybe they themselves are veterans, where can they go to find out more information?
Sure. So the best way would be to maybe do a Google search for honor flights in Iowa, or honor flights near Cedar Rapids will come up. If you were to bring up Dubuque or Waterloo, they have honor flights near them. And if you're not able to locate an honor flight near you, feel free to reach out to the Eastern Iowa Honor Flight. Our website is eihonorflight.org. And we will certainly get you in contact with a honor flight near you. And National Honor Flight, if you just look up honor flight and Google that, National Honor Flight will also be able to give you location closest by searching your zip code.
And as a nonprofit, I'm assuming that you or any honor flight will accept donations via those websites.
Yes, absolutely. Each one of our websites do have an area where you are able to make a donation. And RAGBRAI also has the opportunity on their website to make a donation. And those donations will go directly to the Iowa Honor Flights. We are 100% volunteers.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do for the Eastern Iowa Honor Flight.
Yeah, well, you are welcome. Thank you for giving people more information about the honor flight, and hopefully they received some information today that would encourage them to sign up a family member or themselves.
All right. Thank you.
We will be right back.
At First Form, they're more than just supplements. They're built for performance, driven by purpose, and proud to fuel the RAGBRAI journey.
First Form helps real people earn real long-term results on the bike and beyond.
From clean energy to high-protein snacks that actually fuel you, they're here to keep you moving, recovering, and riding strong.
Come find the First Form team out on the route. Let's crush RAGBRAI together.
Now, back to the show.
A very warm welcome to Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Hi, Murph. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, we've spent a few minutes conversating before pushing record, and it's I feel like I already know you. I can't wait to maybe run into you during RAGBRAI this coming year.
Fantastic. I look forward to it as well, and nice meeting you virtually.
Yeah. So obviously you're on the episode to talk a little bit about the honor flight and the experience that some of your family members or friends had. But before we get into that, will you tell the listeners where you live and what cycling is like?
Sure thing, Murph. I live in a great place to go cycling. I live in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I live in the Denver metro area. And as you know, Denver, it has a lot of natural beauty about its location. From the mountains, the stunning rock formations,
Mm-hmm.
to hillsides, and to the lakes, which we get to see when we're riding our bikes. So, in addition to natural beauty, we also get to see a lot of other things, to include wildlife.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see deers, and sometimes we see foxes, and some antelope sometimes as well. But the bike system here in Colorado, it offers a variety for riders.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a bunch of loops in the city, as well as trails that you can bike on, and then trails up in the mountains as well too. So yeah, so live in Colorado, and I think it's a cycling haven here,
Yeah.
out here. Yeah.
I was just in Colorado Springs a couple weeks ago and was able to pedal up in the Pikes Peak area, Garden of the Gods, and you are so right about rock formations and just beautiful, beautiful scenery.
Yeah, in fact, we had a team that came down from Iowa that visited us.
Oh.
And that's where we took them to go for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of our rides, was at the Garden of the Gods. And if you rode that, you may have seen a formation there. One of the formations that go over the road, so to speak. And we stopped and we all took a Colorado, Iowa picture there.
Oh, nice.
With all the team members there. So it was cool.
Oh, that's awesome. And I've said this to other people that come from Colorado, but when you come to Iowa for RAGBRAI, you kind of have that extra superpower of the lungs from being at high elevation. Do you come knowing that you have a superpower?
That's funny you say that, because we have the elevation, but it's hot in Iowa.
Right. And probably more humid than you're used to.
And it is humid, so it makes things heavy, makes things heavy, and it is hot. But from a physical standpoint, we think we have that advantage,
Sure.
and we like going into that thinking that we have that advantage.
Yeah. It won't bother me if you say it's not Iowa, but do you have a favorite place to ride your bike?
My favorite place in the summertime is Iowa.
Oh,
How about that?
and
especially the last week of July,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people who listen to this podcast will feel the same way. So, of course, you are registered to come back to Iowa this year. Have you done RAGBRAI in the past?
I have, Murph. I have. And there are many RAGBRAI experiences, but for the most part, I've ridden with family and I've ridden with friends. And, we also made friends along the way. For example, on multiple occasions, my son and I, we got to experience the ride, and it was a great father and son bonding.
Oh, sure.
In the summertime in the great state of Iowa.
Yeah. So what got you to the point where you wanted to experience RAGBRAI for the first time? Was it like family or friends tell you had to do it? Or was your son just like, hey, let's go ride in Iowa?
Yeah, so I had a workmate who was doing RAGBRAI for the longest time, and he knew I rode. So, during our lunch breaks, we'd go for rides, and he'd simply tell me, hey, you ought to do this ride with me in Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
and, I gave him that look, I said, it's probably going to be hot there, and, what's out in Iowa. But ever since I did my first one, I've been going back ever since, Murph. And I rode my first RAGBRAI back in 2000.
Oh, wow. Well, what would you say, like, why? Why do you ride?
Main reason I go back is I ride the ride because of the people. And the people are Iowa nice.
Yeah. Well, we hope so.
Yeah, and that's why I come back. So one of my dad's buddies lived in Esterville. You know where that's at, right?
Yes,
Northern
I sure
Iowa?
do. Yeah.
You sure do. So when we were going through there, I don't know, about 8 years ago, because I think we're going to go through there this year.
We are. Yep.
but he doesn't live there anymore. He moved away. But long story short, I called him up and he goes, "You guys are staying with us, whether you like it or not." So we had about 15 to 20 of us, all piled up in the house, and you know how it is. And, we cooked, we hung out in the garage and visited.
So that's sometimes the best, like experiences that you have. They, aren't always on the bike.
Exactly. We rushed to get there because he kept on telling us what he was making, what kind of drinks he had available, what the wife was, getting up to, and she had everything planned. It was so awesome,
Yeah.
So, but it's the people that, keeps us coming back. And, like I said, we made friends. And sometimes now when we go, we already have places to stay because
the connections, right? Yeah. And I'm assuming some of your Air Force buddies are still on the team and you see them as well.
Yeah, we do. And we get to say hi to them, and, it's nice what they do out there.
Oh, for sure.
Helping out everybody. So
right.
That's great. That's what we used to do too when we were on the team.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all that.
Thank you, Murph.
And think of how different RAGBRAI is now, 25 years ago versus now, as far as technology, how the bikes have changed, how we dress and our safety features. It's pretty cool to think of that way.
Yeah, it is. And there has been a lot of changes, especially, with all the gear, with all the high tech gear, and then the new bikes, It makes riding along those countryside roads, a lot more bearable when you can have the music playing,
Sure, yeah. And more than just, one gear. Not that I had more gears back in would you say it was 2000?
Yeah.
Wow.
25 years ago.
Wow. I may have been riding a mountain bike still at that point, which is crazy to think about, instead of being on a road bike with lots of gears and lightweight.
Well, not that crazy, because when I did it with my son, we both did it on mountain bikes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So
And let me tell you, those mountain bikes get heavy, boy.
Yeah. And loud. They're so loud with the tires. So, Okay, I want to get back to RAGBRAI in a bit, but I really want to jump in and talk about the honor flight. Listeners just listened to Lynette, who is the president of the Eastern Iowa Honor Flight, and we reached out to some of the registered riders coming up for 2025, and you sent us a message and kind of wanted to share the experiences that you have heard about with honor flight.
Correct. So with that, I did know a couple of people who got to experience the honor flight network. Mm-hmm. And it was back in about 2018 and 2022.
Okay.
So, when I first heard about it was back in 2018, and it was for one of the family member, that I have. And then back in 2022, it was for some friends in Iowa, that we made along the way.
Oh, wow.
So, a few years, later, 2018, I heard about it, and then I heard about it again in 2022.
Yeah. And
so
I'd love to know what they shared with you about this experience, because like I mentioned this when Andrew and I were talking earlier, but I got to be a guardian on an honor flight. So I got to actually experience the whole thing firsthand. And it is something I will never forget. So I'm really curious who went on the honor flight that you want to share, and then also like what did they tell you about it?
Yeah, so the two experiences, one of them is the family member, and he's my uncle, mm-hmm. and he's a Hawaii resident, and he was an Air Force Vietnam veteran, and he had an application submitted, and he was able to attend, for several days, several days of honor, mm-hmm. in the capital region. And then while the other friend of the family, he's an Iowa resident, who still is today. And he's a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, the United States Navy, and even the Iowa National Guard.
Oh, okay.
And he was able to attend and experienced, the honor flight. So what they got to say about it was my uncle. He was, I think the program's called a Lone Eagle or something like that. And my aunt and my uncle, got on the flight from Hawaii and made their way all the way to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And what he told me, or what I know about that was that, everything from the application process to actually, seeing the memorial, well, the flight as well too, the flight and just being honored on the flight, it was very touching, and I know that you probably experienced the same as well. Whereas, the friend of the family who was an Iowa resident, my experience was writing a letter to him because the honor flight, recommended, that, we write them a little note or something so that when they give it to them, they have the opportunity to read it and, be honored, for their experiences. But what I can tell you what it was like, it was very moving and very emotional. It was moving for the entire family as well, because family members, when they were at the memorials in the capital region, they realized the significance of the contributions made, by their family members, to protect and serve our country,
right?
As well as, our coalition partners. And this is the part, that got me as well too. It was emotional. My family members and, my friends, children and their family members, told me it was emotional because there's a wide range of feelings that, you can see in the veterans' body posture, their eyes, their body language. And it suggested a lot, from reflection to profound, gratitude, for, the honor flight, taking time, to hold such activities.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree.
Yeah. So, I think it was very moving.
And I think all of those memorials, they're very meaningful to everyone who goes to see them, but it's a whole different experience when you are literally a veteran who, was out protecting all of us. It's just, I could tell it was a much different experience for them. Yes.
Right. And it was one experience for them, one experience for the family members. And then you can imagine, the joy in the honor flight, representatives that were there,
right.
for them accomplishing their mission,
right.
To honor veterans. So,
yeah,
it was a good trifecta, the veterans, the family, an honor flight.
For sure. Yeah. I assume I already know what you're going to say, but what would you say to veterans that are maybe considering going, especially after you experienced, a couple people that went?
Yeah. Well, I think it's simple, Murph. I would say a couple of things. I would say act now and apply. The Honor Flight Network, their goal is to celebrate America's veterans. And I think they do a very good job of that. So if you're a veteran considering it, I would say, do what it takes, to get the ball rolling and go and enjoy yourself, with the honor flight, with the honor flight mission.
Yep. And as Lynette said in a previous interview, it doesn't cost anything for the veteran. So get out there, get that application, go online. It's all in the show notes where you can do that. And, if there's a waiting list, get on the waiting list now. Right?
That's right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Well, Jimmy, I appreciate you coming on the podcast to kind of share what, the experiences that you've had. And I think before we go, here we are, mid-May. So RAGBRAI's coming up soon. Do you want to give your team a shout out?
Team Fearless Wiener and Team Bat, looking forward to reuniting with all of you guys in the great state of Iowa. And hopefully you guys will listen to Murph and myself on Just Go Bike Podcast.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Murph.
Well, listeners, that is it for today. We want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast. If you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe even you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and watch our intros on YouTube. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. That is going to do it for this week. Until next time,
Just go bike.
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.